sunny. Yesterday my life was filled with rain.
Now on KCAL 9 News at 10, Sky 9 is over breaking news in the Westlake district.
A hostage drama in the area is over. A SWAT team managed to take an armed suspect into custody just about 30 minutes ago. But it's still quite a scene out there. KCAL 9's Brittany Hopper is there live with more. Brittany?
And just a half an hour ago, a much different scene out here. Dozens of police cars with their sirens on were speeding through this area. Right now, a much calmer feeling out here. You can see behind me, police are still out here investigating. But let's go to some video from earlier. Police say a radio call came in of a man with a gun inside an apartment with 3 people held hostage. SWAT was here, K-9 units, and some neighbors were evacuated. The call came in around 7 p.m. The suspect barricaded himself for 2.5 hours, and during that time, neighbors were on edge. Take a listen.
It's pretty wild. I'm a pretty well-abled individual, so, glad it's not me, but that's really intense. Hopefully they get this thing resolved. It's not good for the neighborhood.
Now back here live, the situation has been resolved. The suspect has been taken into custody, and we are told no one was injured. We are live tonight in the Westlake District. Brittany Hopper, KCAL 9 News.
A judge threatened the wife of suspended LA Kings player Slava Voinov with contempt of court today. KCAL 9's Dave Lopez says it's because she refuses to testify against her husband in a domestic violence case.
Marta Varlamova walked into a Torrance courtroom this morning with her husband, Slava Voinov, the suspended LA Kings defenseman who makes more than $4 million a year. He is accused of felony spousal abuse, accused of punching his wife, kicking her, and choking her at their Redondo Beach home last October. And then, according to the police, he shoved her into a flat-screen television set which opened up a gash over her right eye that required 8 stitches to close.
Do you have anything to say afterward, ma'am?
The couple, both from Russia, remain together, and she has made it very clear to the court that she will not testify against her husband at the trial, even though she's been legally subpoenaed. Voinov faces 9 years in state prison if convicted. His trial is set for July, and the prosecution considers the testimony of his wife extremely important. In court, Judge Eric Taylor asked her attorney, quote, "Will any counseling help her decision about this?" The judge continued, "If she refuses to testify, I will find her in contempt," and then added, "Counselor, advise your client there could be immigration consequences." After a short recess, her attorney told the court, quote, "Your Honor, she has agreed to counseling, so perhaps that will convince her to testify." The judge did not put a deadline for her final decision. From Torrance, Dave Lopez, KCAL 9 News.
This afternoon, we have developing news. We've learned a deadly police shooting of a homeless man was caught on camera. And now there are serious questions about whether the shooting was justified. CBS News' Randy Page is live in downtown L.A., where Chief Charlie Beck just spoke about the incident. Randy.
Well, Paul, and that Chief, Charlie Beck, was very sober as he called this late afternoon news conference. He faced the cameras and began with this.
I know there are public concerns about this particular officer-involved shooting, as there are any time an unarmed individual is shot by a police officer. I am also very concerned about this shooting.
LAPD Chief Charlie Beck says the officer-involved shooting happened at 11:20 yesterday evening. LAPD Pacific Division got a call that a person was harassing customers and wouldn't leave outside a Venice bar. 2 LAPD officers responded and spoke to the man, and police say he walked away. But the officers say they later saw the suspect struggling with someone on the sidewalk. When they approached the suspect a second time, police say an altercation occurred, and one of the officers fired his weapon. The suspect was killed. Police have not identified the suspect, but people who knew him gave us this photograph and tell us his name is Brendan. We are not using his last name because his next of kin have not yet been notified.
I've seen him drunk before many times. I've actually gotten him out of the cops, hold before. They were trying to arrest him one night for being too loud, and I got him away with a ticket,
Allison Holden says she's known the man identified as Brendan for about a month.
He would never raise his hand to anybody, ever. So for them to just shoot him like that, it doesn't make any sense.
We noticed a security camera within about 10 feet of where the shooting occurred. Today, Chief Charlie Beck said he has reviewed the video, and at this point, there's no evidence that the suspect tried to get the officer's gun.
I am concerned about this particular shooting. It takes an extreme set of circumstances for a Los Angeles police officer to become involved in a shooting with an unarmed individual. We are at this point in the investigation, we don't see those extreme circumstances.
Today, DA Jackie Lacey said she can't comment on the investigation because it is just beginning, but she did say the LAPD has crisis intervention teams to help deal with the mentally ill, but she said more resources are needed.
I have to know that LAPD has similar teams already in place, but they're not around the clock. They're not always available, and we need them available all the time.
And today the chief agreed with the district attorney, saying he too would like to have more resources to help police deal with the mentally ill. It is worth noting the chief also made a point of saying that the officer who fired his weapon is African American and that the suspect is also African American. The chief said that the officer had injured his knee and was under some sedation. So investigators of the Forced Investigation Division have not yet had an opportunity to speak to him. Live in downtown Los Angeles, Randy Page, CBS 2 News.
And developing news right now, May Day rallies and marches are underway in Los Angeles. Look at this huge crowd. Sky 9 live over this rally. This is Chinatown. Protesters there demanding a higher minimum wage and the implementation of President Obama's executive orders on immigration. KCAL 9's Jeff Nguyen live in downtown LA where there's another May Day march, and that one's just about to begin. Looks like a crowd out there as well, Jeff.
Sandra, and while we want to show you the crowd out here, there are several hundred people that have lined up getting ready for this march. We want to take the camera over this way. You see LAPD officers at the ready to help escort them through this march. Now, this march is beginning at the corner of Olympic and Broadway. They're going to walk all the way down Broadway down to City Hall. Greg Polancic, our camera person, is going to show you a little bit of the crowd here. I can tell you that one of the people that is speaking here is State Senator Kevin De Leon. Now, the focus of this march is mostly about the immigration issue. Most of the people here are pushing for the implementation of President Obama's executive actions on immigration. There are two marches going on right now. One of them is starting outside Chinatown, as you mentioned earlier, Sandra. The other one right here at Olympic and Broadway. Now, the folks here, at this point, about 400 or 500 people right now. Keep in mind, this is also May Day, so labor is a big component of the march out here, and this has been an annual march since about 2006. Let's go ahead and roll some video. Earlier today, we ran into the LA County Federation of Labor. They delivered a petition of about 100,000 signatures. Their goal is to raise the minimum wage gradually to $15 an hour. Take a listen.
These 100,000 voices are calling for moving the wage to $15 as soon as possible without a bunch of loopholes, having strong wage enforcement provisions, and giving workers the sick days that they deserve. This is just a sampling of the support that we've seen all across the city and the county of LA, where more than 2/3 of voters in the city of LA support raising the wage.
So again, about 500 people out here. They are set to march down Broadway to City Hall. We will stay on top of this and keep an eye on the traffic situation for you. For now, we are live in downtown Los Angeles. Jeff Nguyen, KCAL 9 News.
The city of Los Angeles is taking on Wells Fargo Bank. A lawsuit claims accounts were opened without customers' approval and that some were charged bogus fees that damaged their credit. KCAL 9's Dave Lopez has details of the lawsuit and how one customer ended up with dozens of accounts.
So this has gone on for 4 years. I've had 20 accounts maybe.
Frank On is a businessman who said he has banked with Wells Fargo for years. And he says it's been a nightmare once he realized what was happening.
Every time I go to the branch, it's a battle with them.
And according to City Attorney Mike Feuer, On is not the only one.
Wells Fargo often elevated its profits over the legal rights of its customers.
Feuer alleges the bank routinely opened up checking accounts, gave lines of credit, and credit cards to customers that not only didn't want them, but didn't ask for them. And the fees for these unauthorized accounts simply piled up.
Well, they kept making promises. They said, okay, we won't charge you any fees. This is it. They always say this is the end of it. So I thought it was the end of it, but it wasn't.
In his lawsuit, Feuer is asking for sanctions against Wells Fargo and a $2,500 fine for every infraction.
There was a point in time I had 10 accounts. I've had more than 10 accounts at Wells Fargo. I only need one.
Wells Fargo has over 9,000 branches in the state. They issued a statement which reads in part, quote, We will vigorously defend ourselves against these allegations. Wells Fargo's culture is focused on the best interest of its customers and creating a supportive, caring, and ethical environment for our team members. Fuhr has opened up a special hotline and is asking all current Wells Fargo customers to answer these questions. Have checking or savings accounts that you didn't ask for been opened in your name? Have accounts you've closed stayed open? Have you received credit or debit cards that you didn't request? Has a line of credit been opened that you didn't apply for?
I wanted to trust him, but now I know I can't trust him.
The lawsuit has been filed and the warning has been sounded. From downtown Los Angeles, Dave Lopez, KCAL 9 News.
For more information on the lawsuit and the LA City Attorney's hotline number, just go to kcal9.com and click on Seen on TV.
Well, there's only about 2 weeks left with David Letterman at the helm of CBS 2's Late Show. A local photographer is reminiscing about his unforgettable years working with the legendary comedian. CBS 2's Erica Nachman is live in Santa Monica with the story of what he calls the best job he ever had. Erica.
That's right, Pat. I'm in the gallery right now showing off that local photographer's images that he created while working with Letterman in the 80s and early 90s. You might even recognize some of those images because they were used on Letterman's first late night talk show. Picture this. It's 1982 and your boss just became David Letterman.
Pleasure to have him on our first program. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Murray.
I was a magazine photographer and got a call one day. Next thing you know, I'm working on the Letterman show, which was this crazy 12:30 late night show that, college students were watching.
Mark Carson went on to work with Letterman for 11 years during those early talk show days. You can see Letterman in this staff photo with Carson close by. Carson even held the cord to snap the photo.
Great boss, the best boss ever. David Letterman, without a doubt.
Carson's job was to create what's known as bumpers for the show back then, those still photographs you would see between a commercial break and the talk show. Each one had that well-known title.
The graphics with David Letterman were rubbed on.
Put on everything from dog food and beer cans.
This is late night beer, available nowhere.
To hotel room walls.
This is probably one of the most famous bumpers of all.
Video captured Carson as he and his coworkers got that one just right.
We can also use it in the other shot too.
We would get in a rent-a-car or a limo and go off into the night and shoot till 4 or 5 in the morning, creating these images.
Sometimes he even put himself in the bumpers.
Shooting with one hand, holding the cards with the other hand.
But he always needed approval from one guy.
This is probably one of the most famous props of all because it was sent in from a viewer. We did a bumper with it and presented it to Dave and didn't realize that he hates Rubik's Cubes, so he rejected it.
Though almost always, he says, Letterman liked it.
Dave was cool. I mean, he was great for me because he loved what we did. For any creative person, what you dream of is creative freedom.
Now, decades after he worked alongside Letterman, those moments he captured.
This is history.
And the memories he created are still some of the best of his life.
Best job of my entire career.
Now you will have a chance to get your hands on these original bumpers. 33 of them will be chosen for an auction to celebrate 33 years Letterman spent hosting late night talk show, and that auction will be here at Santa Monica Auctions on Sunday, May 31st. Live in Santa Monica, Erica Nachman, CBS 2 News.
And Letterman's guest tonight is President Obama, and there is a pretty entertaining exchange about what happens when Letterman's no longer hosting and the president is no longer the president. It's right here on CBS 2 starting at 11:35.
50 years ago, the Beatles recorded 2 of their most beloved albums for Capitol Records, Help and Rubber Soul. Today, some local students chose a Beatles song when they got a chance to record their own album inside the iconic Capitol Records building. CBS 2's Stephanie Simmons got to listen in.
Where do they all belong? While most kids her age might be singing songs from Katy Perry or One Direction, 10-year-old Nadia Perez is belting out a tune from the Beatles.
They sing really good and they're mostly like my favorite band.
4th and 5th graders from Noble Elementary School are making their own recording of the Beatles' hit song, Eleanor Rigby.
They're recording so that they can learn about an industry, maybe be involved in it when they get older, or just for the experience of something they may never ever have a chance to do in their lifetime.
The recording is going on right here inside the Capitol Records building in Hollywood. So much history in these walls. The Beatles have recorded here, as well as many other famous bands.
The kids chose the Beatles chart topper Eleanor Rigby, but they also turned it up a notch with the Taylor Swift hit, Shake It Off.
That's what they don't know.
The kids are learning how the Beatles influence modern-day music and about other aspects of the music industry.
Also singing, learning how to sing and learning about the arts and coming here to Capitol. I don't know, just it's a full rounded education.
The students now leaving an imprint on the walls where many famous voices have been before. In Hollywood, Stephanie Simmons, CBS 2 News.
A lotto mystery in the Antelope Valley appears to have been solved. A convenience store owner thought a winner walked away with $75 instead of $75,000. But as our Jeff Nguyen learned, the reality is something quite different.
Candy bar or something.
This security video is at the center of a lottery controversy. It captured an undercover investigation where a decoy winning lottery ticket for $75,000 was paid out for just $75. Nahar Islam is the manager at this Chevron store in Palmdale, where the California Lottery conducted an undercover investigation on March 25th. She says she called authorities the next day to report a mistake by her employee.
She told me we come to pick up the ticket. I said, okay, fine. But they don't come back. Even they didn't contact with me. And I wait like a month.
Today, the lottery told us the man you see in the video receiving the cash is a lottery employee who went in with a decoy ticket to see how the retailer would handle it. According to lottery records, store manager Islam won a $20,000 scratcher in 2008, which is legal. The store had 18 winners of $600 or more between 2003 and 2010, but none since. The lottery says it routinely conducts undercover operations like this one seen here to see if retailers keep winning tickets without telling customers they've won. During a video chat, a lottery deputy director told us there are a lot of red flags in this case.
First of all, they kept the ticket, which they shouldn't do. They didn't give a validation receipt back to the player, our investigator. That's another problem.
The lottery is now checking its phone records to see if the store did in fact report a mistake, and it may take some time before we know how it plays out. In Palmdale, Jeff Nguyen, KCAL 9 News.
The internet is abuzz over something called a dad bod. What exactly is a dad bod? Well, it's not fat. It's not thin, it's just right, according to the college woman who has catapulted this term to viral status. As a 40-something-year-old dad, I find this notion profoundly reassuring. However, not everybody is pleased, and so here tonight is ABC's Mara Schiavocampo.
Introducing the new IT body type for bros. Who needs Magic Mike, washboard abs, and bulging biceps? Apparently, what some women really want is a soft, doughy dad bod.
The dad bod is a healthy medium between someone who's a little bit heavier set and someone who works out, and really the average guy body. My friends and I saw this body type on a lot more guys, and we were attracted to it.
I just need a minute.
Dad bod inspiration? Think Jason Segel's nude scene in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
If I put clothes on, it's over.
Or Paul Rudd downing cupcakes in This Is 40. It was this article, Why Girls Love the Dad Bod, written by Mackenzie Pearson, that made dad bod an internet sensation. She says this is why.
It makes girls, I think, feel a lot more vulnerable when they aren't with someone who's, meal prepping every Sunday and being really intimidating. The experience of cuddling with someone who's got a little bit more on them than just some pure muscle and bone and skin, it's definitely a lot more comforting.
Megastars like Leonardo DiCaprio, Jason Segel, and Seth Rogen have all been called dad bods. So for California dad Zach Rosenberg, he's in pretty good company.
Basically, you're working with a lack of muscle definition across your chest and your abs, which I definitely have. I mean, I have abs in there somewhere. I don't know how many there are, but there's at least 2.
Let me see yours.
Shortly after Mackenzie's dad bod proclamation went viral, there was a tidal wave of controversy. Men were rejoicing, but women started calling foul on Twitter using the hashtag #MomBod. I would love to live in a world where being a mildly overweight woman was found attractive. MomBod. Would a woman ever be celebrated for flaunting a mom bod?
The fact of the matter is, this dad bod is the average body. Most people can't live in the gym. Most people don't have six-pack abs. It's what average guys look like. So in a way, it's great that they can be made to feel good about that. But what about the women on the other side of that? The double standard annoys women to no end.
When I saw the dad bod piece, I thought, no one talks about mom bods like this. There's no one writing cute listicles about top 10 reasons why you might want to date someone with a mom bod. But it's because mom bod is real, but mom bod is seen as a negative. Okay.
Sarah Orsburn is a blogger and mother of 2 twin girls based out of Little Rock. When she heard about dad bod, she immediately wrote a post about being proud of her mom bod.
Mom bod is something that you need to get rid of as soon as possible after having the baby, because if there is any evidence on your body that you've had a baby, then it's a problem. A mom bod probably doesn't have six-pack abs. A mom bod has some softness to it. A mom bod has, been through the ringer a little bit. Mom bod is probably tired. Mom bod would probably rather be wearing some stretchy pants. But mom bod is strong and mom bod is soft.
The pressure to be a hot mom can be overwhelming, with some women sharing their trim post-baby bodies all over social media. Take lingerie model Sarah Stage, for example. She stirred up heated controversy by posting these pictures of herself 9 months pregnant with six-pack abs. Critics called her too fit to be pregnant.
I'm just doing me. I did this before I was pregnant. I want to do this after. I don't feel like I should have anything to hide and be ashamed of. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. So why not share it with everybody?
Now she's had the baby and bounced back immediately, sharing these snaps with her fan following shortly after giving birth. Stage might be an extreme example, but non-models can feel that pressure too. One of the reasons why Sarah Orsburn thinks it's time we all embraced the mom bod.
I think mom bod pride should become a movement because everyone should be able to be proud of who they are and the skin they're in, because they are the ones who make their body sexy. Your body doesn't decide whether or not you're sexy.
I think every single mother on the face of the earth would love it if the world embraced the mom bod, the flabby body, and we could stop this pressure that we all feel to be thin and perfect and beautiful all the time.
Over 41% of men 18 and older in the U.S. are overweight, so embracing the dad bod could just be a convenient way to accept the bodies many men already have.
I think that dad bods are, sexy because, as the original article stated, it's kind of a non-intimidating body type. Oh, who's got a bigger muscle, me or you? Me. I think that, celebrating a body type that does have a little bit more to love is totally a realistic way to go.
Rosenberg found the dad bod trend so amusing, he created a fake diet plan to help his fellow dads get that perfect flabby body.
Definitely as part of the 30-day dad bod challenge, if you want to participate, we have awesome stuff like pizza, cake, and tacos. Pizza's here. It's a funny joke that we're enjoying right now, and dads are saying, great, we have an excuse to not do sit-ups tonight.
And he says that embracing a little flab may be good for everyone.
I hope the mom bod becomes a thing. That's good. Mm-hmm. Moms should, feel comfortable in their skin. It's a good thing it's cheat day. Celebrate their husband's dad bods. And, dads should be celebrating their wives' mom bods. And we can all be, healthy and happy together and a little squishy. Oh!
For Nightline, I'm Mara Schiavocampo in New York.
I got you now.
Our thanks to Mara Schiavocampo tonight. Okay, so what do you think about the whole concept of dad bods? You can head to our Nightline Facebook.
Hello, everybody. I'm Elsa Ramon.
I'm Susie Saar. Top story here on KCAL 9 News at 10. What could possibly drive a man to shoot his neighbor dead? Well, that's the talk of a Simi Valley neighborhood tonight after a long simmering dispute boiled over into a deadly confrontation. It all came to a tragic end last night when shots rang out in the 2900 block of Deacon Street in Simi Valley. Tonight, KCAL 9's Erica Knocklin tells us there was a 911 call for help even before the gunfire began.
Simi Valley police say just before this man, Kerry Swain, shot and killed his neighbor, officers were already on their way. They say a disturbance call came in first, and only moments later, shots were fired. A friend of the suspect's family says his wife made that first call to police.
Kerry called his wife on the phone and said, I'm scared. John is threatening my life.
please call 911.
She says the suspect lives in the condo above the victim and that both men have young children. But she says the two have had problems for years. She strongly believes Carrie Swain acted in self-defense.
I do think that people have a right to protect themselves. If you're backed into a corner and your life is being threatened and that of your family, what do you do?
She was screaming, hey, he's dead, he's dead.
This man says he heard the victim's wife screaming. The medical examiner's office now says that victim is Jonathan Ward and that he died of multiple gunshot wounds. Ward's family didn't want to talk on camera, but called the shooting murder and a horrible tragedy.
We're all in shock. Yeah, none of us expected it. I mean, we'd all known of some form of trouble going on with neighbors, but never thought it would go to this degree.
Everyone loses in this kind of a situation.
A source tells me police are investigating the possibility of self-defense. For now, Carrie Swain is in jail for murder with a $750,000 bail. He's scheduled to be in court on Monday. In Simi Valley, Erica Nachman, KCAL 9 News.
Many Americans, especially those in my hometown of Boston, Tom Brady is a national treasure. But tonight, a new report is shedding light on the scandal that will forever be known as Deflategate. Is the New England Patriots star quarterback now facing a tarnished legacy or even worse? Here's ABC's Ryan Smith.
Tonight, football's golden boy and Super Bowl champion and MVP Tom Brady playing defense.
Deflategate. Deflategate.
Deflategate. NFL investigators releasing a 243-page report into the Deflategate scandal, saying Brady was at least generally aware about inappropriate activities surrounding those now infamous deflated footballs.
End zone, touchdown.
The bombshell report revealing that minutes before Brady took the field for that AFC Championship game, Patriots employee Jim McNally reportedly carried the game day footballs out of the officials' locker room to a bathroom. And a minute and 40 seconds later, he brings them to the field. A breach of game protocol, the report says. Those balls later found to be deflated. Perhaps most damning, the report cites a string of texts between McNally and equipment assistant John Jastrzemski after Brady complained about game balls in October. Jastrzemski telling McNally, "Talked to him last night. He actually brought you up and said you must have a lot of stress trying to get them done." Later, McNally calling himself the Deflator. McNally once quipping about being compensated for his work, saying, "Better be surrounded by cash and new kicks."
Is Tom Brady a cheater?
I don't believe so. I mean, I feel like I've always played within the rules. I would never do anything to break the rules.
In the days after the scandal broke, the report says Brady, who refused to turn over his text messages to investigators, called Jastrzemski several times. And while Brady has remained silent today, Tom Brady Sr. defending his son, telling USA Today Sports, "I don't have any doubt about my son's integrity, not one bit," adding that this was Framegate right from the beginning. Adam Schefter weighing in on ESPN today.
And this is going to be about discipline for the Patriots quarterback, Tom Brady. This is going to be about discipline for two men in the locker room.
In the face of this scandal that just won't go away, what's next for the man who seemed to have it all? For Nightline, I'm Ryan Smith in Boston.
Next tonight, the lawsuit after a free cup of hot coffee the police officer burned, suing over his injuries. But who's to blame? Here's Steve Osunsami.
You didn't know the coffee was hot.
I didn't know it was that hot.
Yes, this is a lawsuit over a hot cup of Starbucks coffee, and the coffee was free. But Matthew Core, a Raleigh police officer, says that when the lid popped off, the drink collapsed and hit his lap. It triggered a flare-up of his Crohn's disease, and doctors later had to remove a section of his intestine.
It was just frozen from the pain, and I had to gather myself.
Today in court, he explained how initially he and his family were asking for $10 million, but settled on $750,000.
I thought it was worth $10 million. Actually, I thought it could have been higher.
Lawyers for Starbucks are fighting back, reading long lists of doctor's visits that Core needed for his Crohn's disease before that cup of joe ever entered his life. Starbucks says it did nothing wrong and has seen only 59 similar incidents, even though they serve 4 billion cups of coffee each year. David?
Steve Osunsami tonight. Steve, thank you.
More on Rita Wilson's breast cancer battle. The actress revealing a second opinion saved her life. And now lots of women with questions this morning as the American Cancer Society says more than 230,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed in women this year.
She's the talented actress and the devoted wife of Academy Award funny man Tom Hanks.
And now Rita Wilson has her own personal story to share, revealing to the world her invasive breast cancer diagnosis. The 58-year-old exclusively tells People magazine she has undergone a double mastectomy and reconstructive surgery. But there is an even darker side to her story. She was originally misdiagnosed, and those initial findings missed the cancer. Wilson tells People magazine, a friend who had breast cancer suggested I get a second opinion on my pathology, and my gut told me that was the thing to do.
This is truly a life-changing gut instinct. And even though a doctor told her, someone she felt she could trust, told her she didn't have anything wrong with her, there was just something kind of bugging her inside that made her want to go get that second opinion.
The second and third opinion confirmed it was indeed cancer, showing that taking charge of your own health is vital. Dr. Christy Funk is Angelina Jolie's breast surgeon and is not treating Wilson.
I always tell women, look, you've been with your breasts every single day since you were born. So if you think something is new and changing or just wrong, you should persevere.
Wilson says she shares this to educate others that a second opinion is critical.
You have to be responsible for getting the proper screening, and when bad diagnoses happen to you, you need to take the responsibility. Sometimes that involves a second opinion.
Wilson says, I hope this will encourage others to get a second opinion and to trust their instincts if something doesn't feel right.
And joining us now is ABC News senior medical contributor Dr. Jennifer Ashton. And Jen, Rita had something called invasive lobular cancer.
Right.
Tell us what that is.
Well, you know, we have to remember that when we talk about breast cancer, it's like saying we're going to talk about the weather. Are you talking about a heat wave or a snowstorm? And lobular refers to the part of the breast anatomy where the abnormal cells started. So people shouldn't get too bogged down in the initials or the terminology. This particular type, which starts kind of as LCIS, those are the letters, it's a marker lesion, so it tells us, watch out, this person's at high risk for developing invasive lobular cancer at some time in the future, anywhere in either breast.
Is it difficult to diagnose?
You know, any type of cancer can be difficult to diagnose because, again, we've talked about it before. We're trying to reconcile what we see on an imaging test, like a mammogram or an MRI, to what a pathologist sees when they look at a slide.
But I was still so surprised to hear how often diagnoses differ.
Well, listen, you know, in the ideal world, George, it should never happen. But we have to remember doctors are human beings. We do make mistakes. We never want to. But it's actually more common to have a diagnosis by pathology downgraded, initially saying it was cancer and then downgraded rather than upgraded, although both can happen. And you know, if you think about what goes on in the operating room, we take a specimen out of the body. Sometimes in the case of a breast tumor, it might be like a marble. Then the pathologist takes it to their lab and slices it like a loaf of bread. And they look at those slices and those slides. And you know, when you put your eyes on a microscope, it's not like a neon sign flashes up cancer. This is a skilled thing that depends on judgment and experience and a lot of factors.
So with that said, should we just always get a second opinion?
No, because that's not necessary. It's not logistically feasible. And again, you absolutely want to trust your instinct. If you feel uncertain, don't hesitate. You're never going to offend anyone. But in many hospitals, especially when you're talking about breast, women should know it's very, very common for two pathologists to look at every specimen. It happens at my hospital. It happens at many, many hospitals all across the country.
And I know so many women out there and men will have questions for you, and you're available. Dr. Jen Ashton will be taking your questions throughout the morning. Tweet her at Dr. J. Ashton. I just want to say we're all thinking of Rita and her family and wishing her the very best.
Absolutely. And Jen, thank you so much. Important information.
Moving on now, thousands of gallons of water lost in the middle of the drought. A water main burst open in Sherman Oaks today, flooding nearby businesses. The broken water main shut down 4 blocks of Ventura Boulevard east of Van Nuys Boulevard. KCAL 9's Christy Fajardo is live in Sherman Oaks with an update on the cleanup effort there. Christy.
Juan, crews have cleaned up most of the mud, and take a look behind me. They are now getting ready to dig a hole, and they're going to let an inspector go in to check to see whether the street is structurally sound. If all goes well, they hope to open one of the westbound lanes in about an hour and hope to reopen the rest of the street by the end of the night. And at this hour, they also have claims adjusters going business to business assessing the damage. Gushing water surrounds trees and invades businesses on the 14,500 block of Ventura Boulevard. At the Valley Dog Bakery, cell phone video taken just before 1 shows the makeshift barriers that couldn't quite keep all the rising water out.
Kind of looked like a running river by the time it was all it was at its peak. Went and grabbed a bunch of towels, had friends bring towels, and we were able to go ahead and kind of try to hold the water off a little bit, or the best we could.
William Weavers also alerted his neighbors. Here they are watching as the water rushed by. Instead of walking out, patrons found themselves wading to their cars. The DWP says all of this bubbled up from an 8-inch water main that burst.
Before we knew it, water was coming in through our windows and underneath the building, and now we have a pretty serious flood inside.
Nikki Foy owns Salon Beauty Bar. Crews managed to stem the flow of water, but not before Foy's and 3 other businesses saw flooding.
Water's gone behind the shelves, and it's going to cause a lot of damage.
The DWP is now cleaning up the mess and repairing the street, but with enough water to lift concrete, business owners are now worried about what's under their feet. And business owners are also telling us that they are out some income because they had to close up while they cleaned up and also while they wait further water to be restored, which we're told could take another 6 hours or so. At this point, the DWP tells us it does not know how much water was lost. The agency also tells us that the water main was installed in 1977, but at this point, crews have not determined what caused it to burst. Live in Sherman Oaks, Christy Fajardo, KCAL 9 News.
Fake cops busted tonight. Deputies have arrested 3 people for allegedly creating a fake police organization. They allegedly had weapons, cars, and even IDs, and one of the suspects used to work for Attorney General Kamala Harris. The arrest happened in Santa Clarita in the 28,000 block of Linda Vista Street and the 17,000 block of Sierra Highway. Tonight, KCAL 9's Rachel Kim is live in Santa Clarita with this very unusual story. Rachel.
That's right, Susie and Elsa. Sheriff's investigators here say the Masonic Fraternal Police Department had weapons, uniforms, and even their own website. They even made numerous public appearances. We found out tonight that one of the suspects works for the Department of Justice. Tonight, the LA County Sheriff's Department says 3 people who claimed they were police are now on the other side of the law. Investigators say the trio were part of an elaborate fake police department.
I don't know. I'm really surprised of what's going on.
Sherry Elgabalawi lives next door to David Henry and Tanette Hayes in Canyon Country. She can't believe the couple, along with Brandon Keel, were arrested for impersonating police. Investigators say they found weapons, badges, uniforms, police-type cars, and other equipment at their homes.
I always see them with their uniform, so I thought they were part of any chief department. I didn't know it was something fake or.
It all started back in January when some local police chiefs received letters from the Masonic Fraternal Police Department saying that David Henry was elected as their chief. Soon, phone calls followed from Keel, who said he was chief deputy director. He asked to meet with each agency's chief. When a captain with the Santa Clarita Sheriff's Station met with a group, suspicions grew. May I speak to David Henry, please?
They're not home. I'm babysitting.
We knocked on David Henry's door, but the woman inside didn't want to answer any questions. We found pictures believed to be Henry in full uniform on Google+. And here, seen hobnobbing with lawmakers like Maxine Waters, who was given an award by Henry and others in 2012. And here in 2013, with LAPD, asking for local peaceful protests in the wake of the George Zimmerman verdict. Now, Attorney General Kamala Harris's office confirms that Keel works for the Department of Justice, but is currently on administrative leave. Meantime, investigators here believe there are others involved in this organization. They ask if you have any information to give them a call. Reporting live tonight in Santa Clarita, Rachel Kim, KCAL 9 News.
X is now going public with his legal fight for their 2 frozen embryos. In an op-ed piece for the New York Times, banking heir Nick Loeb defends the lawsuit filed here in California. And during the couple's 3 years together, they tried bringing fertilized embryos to term twice using a surrogate, but both attempts failed. Following their split and her recent engagement, Loeb sued for the rights to their last 2 embryos. He says he will pay all expenses, raise the children himself, and have Vergara declared an egg donor, but she says no. In his editorial to the Times, he writes, "When we can create embryos for the purpose of life, should we not define them as life rather than as property? This is not just about saving lives, it is also about being pro-parent." When the embryos were created, the couple signed an agreement that states no unilateral action can be taken with the embryos unless both parties consent. Residents in Seal Beach are watching the tide come in and worrying tonight. After days of big waves and high surf, people who live close to the water hope the berm holds back tonight's high tide before it comes gushing into their streets. Tonight, KCAL 9 Orange County reporter Stacey Butler is live in Seal Beach, where the tide is expected to reach its highest point just about now, actually. Stacey.
Well, this is what crews prepared for all day. Take a look behind me. It is right now high tide here in Seal Beach. Lori, you want to take the camera over to your left? This just happened seconds ago. You can see in the odd pattern that the water is starting to come right up against that berm. Again, this happened just a second ago. Crews are just hopeful, crossing their fingers that this berm will keep the water back.
It was a little surprising at this time of the year to see the water come up so high. And it was about ankle deep up here and supposedly coming back up tonight.
Another night of high tide, says Seal Beach residents, hoping that tonight seawater doesn't cascade over the protective berm and roll into the boardwalk with 3 inches of water close to homes like it did last night.
Well, I guess they got some berm back up, which hopefully will help. I think they may have taken it down a little soon, but hopefully this one will help and stop the flooding getting up to the houses.
Seal Beach Marine Safety Chief Joe Bailey says no homes or businesses were damaged last night, but to be safe, today crews were out extending the berm and making it higher.
What we did is we had the contractor go ahead and extend that berm the length of the beach. So he built it a little bigger than the old one, so it's about 3 foot tall and 5 or 6 feet wide, and we're hoping it'll do the trick for tonight when we have our high tide.
And back out here live, you are taking a live look at the tide really coming in right now. We're told that the tide tonight will be higher than last night, and that's why you see lifeguards out here. There is a police vehicle out here right by the pier, right at this trouble spot. This is where all the flooding happened last night, and you can see it's almost, Laura, you want to turn the camera back around here? It's almost a slow crawl the way the water is coming up. The waves are very small, but it's deceptive because the water is making its way over right here, Laura, to your left, over to the berm, coming in slow but sure. And crews are just waiting and watching. We're live for now in Seal Beach. Stacey Butler, KCAL 9 News.
Okay. You'll never guess who's taking credit for launching Taylor Swift's career. That's right, Seinfeld actor Jason Alexander. He's definitely not low talking, telling TMZ he gave the blank space singer her big start when he cast her in a Brad Paisley video back in 2007. Alexander directed and starred in the video for Online. There he is jamming out with Taylor. Looks like her dance moves haven't changed too much, huh? And even if Alexander is joking about launching T Swift's career, we can't help but wish they'd worn that puffy shirt for the video, huh?